Hello and welcome to another sewing tutorial. My name is Betty and this is the third video of a series of 5 videos where I will show you how to sew different summer items without a pattern. And today we're gonna sew this beautiful skirt together. It has an elastic waistband and some beautiful ruffles on the hem. And it also has a strap to tie it, but you can leave that out if you don't want it or if you find it too complicated. It works perfectly also without it. And if you like this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel. And if you have any questions, you can ask me in the comments or you can also text me on my Instagram. So now let's get into it. So what do you need to make this skirt? First of all, the fabric. I have 100% linen in white that I take. You need about 1 meter, 1.5 meters, depending on how long you want your skirt to be. Then matching thread. And we need an elastic band again. This time it's gonna be a little bit wider, minus 20 millimeters, so 2 centimeters wide for the upper part of our skirt. And before we can start sewing, we have to prepare the pattern, and therefore we take 2 measurements today. So take a measuring band, and first of all we're going to measure our hip circumference. Therefore, you put your measuring band around the biggest part of your hip area. And you note down that measurement. And afterwards, we're going to measure how long we want our skirt to be. So we take our measuring band and we put it to where we want our waistband from the skirt to be and see how long we want it to be. And we also note down this measurement. So here is a picture of the skirt, how it's going to be, and I also noted down the 2 measurements that I just took. First my hip circumference and then the length that I want my skirt to be. This is the total length of the skirt. The skirt is made up of different parts. First of all, the waistband. This is going to be 4 centimeters. Then the main part and the lower part. Then I decided the middle part I wanted to be 26 centimeters for my skirt, and the lower part is going to be 15 centimeters long. And that adds up to the 45 centimeters that I measured. So now to make the pattern of the skirt, we need different rectangles again. First of all, for the main part of the skirt, which is the waistband and the long part of the skirt, and the second rectangle I needed for the lower part of the skirt. And then, as you see here, there's also a strap to tie the skirt as well. And therefore we need another rectangle. So 3 different types of rectangles that we need here. And to measure the size of the first rectangle, first we take the smaller side. We have the 26 centimeters here on the side. Then we add the 4 centimeters of the waistband. And we have to multiply those 4 centimeters by 2. Because later we have to fold it to the back so we can create a channeling for the elastic band and for the straps. And then we have to add seam allowance. I added 1 centimeter down there and 1 centimeter up there, so 2 more centimeters. And that adds up to 36 centimeters. For the lower part, it's easier because we only have the 15 centimeters and we need seam allowance. So this is 15 centimeters plus seam allowance, 1 centimeter up here, and I add 2 centimeters down there to create a nicer hem. So in total we have 3 centimeters. And that's gonna be 18 centimeters. And And now for the length of those two rectangles. To calculate this, we need our hip circumference that we measured earlier, which were 100 centimeters for me. And we want the skirt not to be pressed to our body, but we want it to be loose. So I add another 10 centimeters of freedom. And we're gonna cut two rectangles, one for the front and one for the back. So we have to divide this measurement by 2. And in the end, we have to add seam allowance again, and I add 1 centimeter to the left and 1 centimeter to the right, which are another 2 centimeters, or 57 centimeters in length. And we need this times 2. So we have 57 centimeters here and 36 centimeters here. And for the rectangle that's going to be the lower part of the skirt, we just take the 57 centimeters that we measured earlier and we multiply it by 1.5, so we can create this gathering here, more or less 86 centimeters. So, and we also needed 2 times for the front and for the back. And now for the strap that's going through our waistband in the end, we need 2 centimeters of width and 160 centimeters of length. And we're gonna cut it 1 time only. And these are already our pattern pieces, so now let's cut them. Once you cut the pieces, you should have 2 times the main part of the skirt, 2 times the ruffle part, and 1 time the strap if you want to make the strap. And now we're gonna need the main part of the skirt, and we're gonna overlock the top and the bottom of these parts. If you don't have an overlock machine, just like me, you can also use your normal sewing machine and take a zigzag stitch to sew along those 2 lines. I'm using this foot, which is basically a normal foot, but it has this thing on the side, which helps me sew closer to the edge of the seam. And I use a zigzag stitch, the biggest one that I have. And now your seam should look like this. And we can continue with the other sides. Now, after we overlocked the 2 sides on both panels, we will now fold the top edge 1 centimeter down and iron over that. After we did that, we will fold it down another 4 centimeters to create the channeling for the elastic band and for the straps. And we do that on both panels. I adapted the skirt a little bit after I finished it, but if you want a look like this with those folded lines, then it makes sense to already prepare the main part before the skirt is finished, because it's much easier to do so. And how I did that is basically I just folded the fabric twice, as you can see here, to the outside, and I ironed over this, and I made this 2 centimeter wide. And after I ironed it, I went over the top with a straight stitch. This is just a design element that you can add if you want to, but you don't have to. But remember, it makes your skirt shorter. I liked it how it turned out in the end, and it was not too short for me, but I'm losing 4 centimeters here and another 4 centimeters here of length. So keep that in mind if you want to do that. And now, as you can see, I sewed over the second layer as well from the inside, and we can turn it around now. And we have this beautiful 2 layers on our skirt now as well. After I did that for both panels, I choose one panel that I want to be the front one. And if I want to have straps, I will now fold it in half. So this is going to be the outside of the skirt. This is going to be on the inside of the skirt. Take a look at the folded edge here. And I make markings now where the holes are gonna be, where our strap is coming out. And therefore, I take my measuring tape, measure 3.5 centimeters from the folded edge, and I mark there. And I do the same on the other side of the folded edge, 3.5 centimeters. And I'm gonna make sure this line is 1 centimeter long. And we're gonna continue with this now for the straps. To make the holes in our fabric now, we have to first sew around here in a rectangle form, just like on a buttonhole, that the fabric won't fray when we open the hole here. So if you've ever done this before, you might already know this already. We're gonna use this sewing foot. It should usually come with your machine. If not, you can also use a normal sewing foot, but it's gonna be more difficult. So if you have this, make sure to use this. And we just plug it in like we would with a normal sewing foot. And now we change to one of those settings. With number 1, I go down on the right side. Number 2 and 4 will go to protect the short sides of the rectangle, and number 3 will go up again. And for that we need a very, very low stitch length. The marking that we have, we're gonna place it exactly under the sewing foot. And you can see here there are different lengths with those lines that I have on the side. So from here it will only go 1 centimeter to the front. So I chose this setting. So here, put it to 1, and now I can start sewing. If you've never done that before, make sure to practice this first on a different part of fabric. Now I change to number 2. I will just do a few stitches here. And I change back to number 3 to go back. You can see how my needle moves, right? And to finish my rectangle, I go to number 4 and finish this off. And that's already it. This is how it looks like now, and now we can open the fabric in between to make sure that we can pull our strap through in the end. To open this up, we can use our seam ripper, and we just go from one end to the middle of the hole, and we open it, and then we're gonna do this from the other side as well. And now we have the perfect buttonhole, or in our case, the perfect hole for our strap. And now let's do that with the other side as well. So now that we've prepared both panels, we will now pin them together and sew them together on the sides. Therefore, we put them right sides together, and we open up the parts that we folded, and we make sure that they coincide with each other. And after we pinned everything, we sew along the side with a seam allowance of 1 centimeter with a straight stitch. And now, after we sewed the sides together, we will overlock the sides as well. After we did that for both sides, we should have a circle like this. And now we're gonna iron this to the one side, and then we're gonna fold it back in and iron over it again. should be very easy because we went over there in the beginning. I'm gonna fold this down as well. So, and now we're gonna create the channeling. Now that we ironed everything down, we can pin it that it stays in place, and we're gonna sew over that part with a straight stitch to create a channeling. And we're gonna do 2 lines, one 4 centimeters from the top and the second one 3 centimeters from the top, because we want to create 2 channelings, one for the strap and one for the elastic band. And we gotta make sure that we leave a part open in the end where we can insert our strap and our elastic band. My sewing machine does not have a mark for 4 centimeters. So what I'm gonna do is I measure 4 centimeters and I need to make a marking here. And I take tape for it. Let's go. So, and now I can see here's where I started. And I wanted to leave it open here in the back that I can insert my elements later. So I will stop sewing here. And now we're gonna sew another line, which is 1 centimeter from here. So 3.5 centimeters from the top. Therefore, I'm gonna move my marking to 3.5 centimeters. If you decided not to do the strap, of course you only do one of those 2 channeling lines, because you only have the elastic bands. And I leave it open here as well. We have this open part here in the back where we will insert them later. After we did that, we can now put away our main piece for the skirt, and we're gonna create the strap. For the strap, we need our longest piece, and we're gonna fold it in half for now. This is not going to be a strap that we will turn inside out. So after we fold it in half, it's gonna get a little bit, it's gonna get time consuming. We will open it again, and we're gonna fold these 2 parts into the middle of the strap where we have the marking now from the iron. We're gonna do this all along the strap. After that, we're gonna fold them together. Iron over that and pin it directly. Once we ironed over everything and we pinned everything, wow, I used a lot of pins, but you don't have to use that much pins. We're now gonna sew along the open edge here. We're gonna sew as close as possible from the top, from the beginning to the end of the strap. The strap should now look like this, and we're gonna cut off the beginning or the end. And now we take the strap and we pull the security pin through it, and we will now enter it in the main part of our skirt in the smaller of the 2 channelings. The first half of the strap is already inside the skirt, and now I'm gonna take the second part of the strap and pull it on the other side through the other hole. Now that the straps are inside the channeling, we can finish them off by just tying a knot in the end and cutting the rest off. after that, we're also gonna insert the elastic. We take our elastic and we take a security pin and also enter it in the channeling through the opening in the end. Make sure the elastic stays flat. And once we're at the opening, pull the elastic through. Now you hold it and make sure the elastic is straight inside. I will put them together now just with the security pin to try on the skirt and see how tight I want my elastic band to be before I sew it together. Once I decided how tight I want my skirt to be, I now make sure that the two bands are straight and I can pull them out and sew them together. And I do this by putting them on top of each other, and I will go over here and here with a zigzag stitch. The ends are connected now, and now I can pull on the sides of the skirts to insert the elastic band completely. So, and before we close this gap that we left, we're gonna try on the skirt again to see if it's tight enough, because now we can still make it tighter. So I like the skirt the way it is, and now we can close these two gaps by just sewing the last part that we didn't close before. And be really careful not to sew over the straps. And while you're sewing, make sure to pull a little bit on the band to sew a straight line. And that's already it for the waistband of the skirt. And now we're gonna work on the last part of the skirt, the lower short part. For the last part of the skirt, we will now sew the short sides of them together on both sides to create a big circle. So let's do it. So after we did that, we should now have a big circle, and we're gonna overlock the seam allowance on both sides now that we sewed over. Now that we overlock this part, we will iron over it to give it a nicer look in the end. And we will already create the hem. And to create the hem, I will just fold this in for 1 centimeter, what I want to be the lower part of my skirt, and then I will fold it in 1 more centimeters, so I have some kind of double fold here. And I secured it with pins. So now that I rolled the hem already, I will go back to my sewing machine. First I overlock this side that I haven't overlocked yet, then I will sew along here for the hem. Now the lower piece is prepared, the hem is ready, and all the parts are well protected from fraying. To finish our skirt now, we will first sew over the panel with a basting stitch. Basically it means that we change our stitch length to the highest possible, and we will not use the reverse button. And we will sew now 2 lines with this basting stitch from the side of the circle to the other side of the circle. So basically we're gonna sew half and half. And to show that better, I will use a blue thread because we will remove it in the end anyways. Also make sure that the tension is at 0. And we can start sewing now. So I set from one side to the other side, and we will sew quite close to the edge, less than 1 centimeter. And make sure to leave enough thread that you can pull on later to gather the fabric. And don't use the reverse button. So, and now I'm on the other half, so I will stop sewing here. Leave some thread, and I will do the same on the other half. And now we want to attach the part that we just prepared to our main skirt. And for that, we will put those two parts right sides together for now. We will pin the side seam of the small part to the side seam of the big part, the main skirt, that it's exactly on top of each other. And now what we're going to do is we pull on the thread here, the lower part, and we gather the fabric and we move it along the thread. And we do that until the lower part is as long as the part of the main skirt. We can do that from both sides. And when the parts have the same width, we can make sure that we distribute the folds evenly so we have a nice pattern in the end. And when we're happy with our pattern, we can pin the parts together. And after everything is pinned in place, we will do the same for the other side of the skirt. So now that I pinned everything together, I can now sew those two parts together with a straight stitch. I changed back to my normal white thread, and I also changed my stitch length to a normal stitch length again. So, now that we sewed one time around the skirt, we can remove our needles and we can remove this thread that we used for help, and the skirt is finished. So now that I removed all the blue thread, the skirt is finished. This is basically now how the finished skirt looks like. And just like that, the skirt is finished. I hope you love how yours turned out and you will wear it a lot this summer. And if you like this video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and share this video with your sewing bestie. See you next week!